What's up, and welcome to the No Bullshit Manifestation Show. I'm your host, Kat Kozad, manifestation expert, money mindset and fulfillment coach, and multiple six-figure entrepreneur. Come sit with me while I spill the real tea on what it's like to practice using intentional manifestation, demystify all of the woo-woo and confusing bullshit that comes along with creating the life of your dreams, and give you a realistic view of what it's like to be on a personal, spiritual, and professional growth journey. The goal of this podcast is to support and guide you towards manifesting all of your dreams, shed light on the things that people are too scared to talk about, and encourage you to become the person who gets to have it all, be it all, and do it all. I am so happy you are here. Let's fucking do this thing. What's up, loves? Welcome back to another episode of the No Bullshit Manifestation Show. I am back in New York City, but only for a hot second. I just got back from Puerto Rico and am here for just a few days before heading out again on some more travels. I am going to Colorado, and then I'm going to Phoenix for a business mastermind event, and I'm so fucking excited for that. I get to meet my business coach, who I've worked with since the beginning of starting my business, and so many other incredible entrepreneurs that have been a part of my journey throughout this process. And yeah, so I am going out to do that, but back in the city for a few days. It's so beautiful here since I left. All of the leaves are coming out on the trees. All of the flowers are blooming. It's fully spring here in the city, and it is so fucking beautiful. I'm also super excited for my travels, and I have some really, really exciting travel plans to share with y'all coming up in the next few weeks of what I'm going to be doing over the summer and where you can find me. So with all of that being said, today, we are going to be talking about boundaries and the importance of boundaries, just like you can tell from the title of this podcast episode, because boundaries are an energetic standard of what you are available for. What you are going to attract and manifest into your life oftentimes comes down to the boundaries that you have in your life and what boundaries you are upholding in your life, which ones you are actually holding yourself to and holding other people to. So when it comes to boundaries, most people do not have boundaries because we learn boundaries from our parents. And most people were never taught boundaries. Society has created this fucked up conditioning around people who have boundaries and this perception of them that they're assholes or that they're just not kind or nice people. And that in order to be a nice person, you have to be selfless. You have to have no boundaries. You have to be a people pleaser. And so therefore, majority of people have very poor boundaries. And so if you are listening to this and you're reflecting on your boundaries right now, and if you haven't reflected on your boundaries, now's a good time to do so. And you recognize that you either have very poor boundaries or no boundaries at all, do not be hard on yourself. Do not feel bad about this because majority of us were never taught boundaries. I can speak from firsthand experience. My parents taught me literally zero boundaries. And this came from this place of like, they both wanted to be quote unquote good people. So being a quote unquote good person meant bending over backwards, meant giving, meant doing things above and beyond what they could actually give, and really not setting any sort of standard of what they actually wanted and needed for themselves to try and please the people in their lives and give everything away to other people. And I'm not saying that giving is not good, because we all know that it is. And as I always say on the podcast, the more good, kind-hearted people in the world that have the resources to give to others, the better the world is going to be. But in order for you personally to manifest all of the things that you want into your life and feel fully fulfilled and sustained inside of that, that requires you to have a set of boundaries, and honestly, a pretty strict set of boundaries. I, over the past few years, have become like such a boundaries queen because the more boundaries that I have, the better of a person I get to be, the better I get to show up for everybody else, and the more that the world wins. And prior to doing all of this work of recognizing what boundaries I needed and where my boundaries were non-existent, it has now allowed me to really assess those areas and feel so much more fulfilled and sustained inside of them. So when it comes to boundaries, like I said, we have to have them to set this energetic standard of what we're available for. So what do I mean by that? What do I mean by an energetic standard of what you're available for? Let's take the example of like, if you do not have boundaries with other people. So if you do not have boundaries with other people in your life, let's say a friendship, and there's things that you're not actually wanting to do in the friendship. Your friend is asking you to do things or do them favors or whatever it is, and it goes against something inside of you, but you're choosing to do it anyways. That's going to take your energy away from you, and it's also going to create resentment inside of you towards that friend. Same in a relationship. If you don't have boundaries with the space that you need from your partner or the time that you need alone because you don't want to hurt their feelings, then ultimately you are giving your energy away and you are going to create resentment towards that person. Same with boundaries with ourselves. If you say that you are going to do XYZ, whatever it is, let's say like do the dishes, do the laundry, and make your bed, and then you don't do any of those things, you're going to feel a level of frustration with yourself, and you're also going to build this association inside of your subconscious mind that you don't stick to your word. And the more that we repeat any and all of these different things, the more that we're going to create evidence for our subconscious mind that we don't actually mean what we say and what is true for us at our hearts. It builds this level of disconnect between our truth and us following and giving ourselves permission to listen to our truth. And like boundaries are that simple for us to feel disconnected from ourselves and not trust ourselves. Like I said, it's like even just not making your bed, not doing the dishes, and not doing the laundry is enough evidence for your subconscious mind to look at those different things that you said you were going to do and recognize when you didn't do them that you don't actually stick to your word. And with time and with repetition, that creates this association and this belief that you do not trust yourself. You do not stick to your word. So going back to them being an energetic standard of what you're available for, when you do not have any boundaries in place and you know intuitively from your heart, from inside of you, there's something saying that you either want boundaries or you are not following what you said, what you want for yourself, then that creates disconnect from your truth and it makes it harder for you to attract and manifest the things that you desire into your life. So when it comes to actually creating these boundaries for yourself, my suggestion is always to start with yourself. Instead of starting with other people and being like, what are all of the different boundaries that I need to set with the people in my life? It's like everything starts with you. You can master any sort of skill when you start with yourself first and when you start with the internal shift towards what it is that you're wanting to create for yourself. So some of the ways that I've set boundaries for myself and continued to uphold my boundaries and maintain my boundaries over the past few years since really starting this journey is recognizing like, what are the things that I am telling myself that I'm going to do? What are the things that I'm making promises to myself about? And where was I not upholding them? And where was I not staying true to my word? So an example of that is like, you can set a time that you want to wake up every single day. And by making that commitment to yourself and setting this boundary of this is when you're going to wake up on a daily basis, the more that you continue to do that, the more that you wake up at that time, the more that you're going to build this belief inside of yourself that you follow through on your word, you trust what you say, and you hold boundaries. Same with, like I was saying earlier, like if you say that on whatever day of the week, let's say like Sundays, you're going to do the dishes, do the laundry, and make your bed or go grocery shopping or whatever it is, then you continually showing up week by week on that Sunday and doing that thing, then that is going to start to create this belief inside of yourself that you are able to trust yourself, you follow through on your word, you can keep promises to yourself, you are the kind of person who has boundaries. And as you take this to like greater levels and greater scales in terms of boundaries with yourself, then it can start to be these things that you're wanting to shift and change about your relationship to yourself or your relationship to the world. And an example of this could be like, let's say you're single and you are in the dating world, you're going out on dates, you're looking for your person, and you end up spending time with somebody and they do not meet up to your standards and what you are wanting for a relationship with somebody else. You see those red flags, or you just see that like they're not meeting what you need of them. This is where setting boundaries with ourselves can come into play and be so important, because if you don't have any boundaries, likely you'll continue that relationship. You'll just be like, oh, I can fix it, I can change it, I can do whatever. When in reality, it's like, we can't fix or change anybody. They have to do that for themselves. And if you think you can fix and change anybody, let this be your wake-up call that you cannot. And if you continue down those relationships, you'll continue to play out the same shitty patterns with them over and over and over again. But if you recognize that this person isn't what you are wanting, they do not check the boxes that you have set for yourself, and you have a boundary with yourself that like you are not willing to settle for someone who does not check the boxes, then that is a boundary that allows you to walk away from it and stay in this position of power inside of yourself and set that energetic standard of what you're available for. Because like I was saying, if you do not have that standard of what you're available for, you do not have that boundary that you are going to choose to walk away and stay in your power if this person does not check the boxes and meet up to what it is that you are wanting, then that is going to set the energetic standard of what you're available for. And the universe is going to continue to send more and more people of this vibration into your life until you set that energetic standard. And when you do, and you stick to it, and you allow yourself to stay in this position of power, like I've been saying, inside of yourself, where you have the boundary, you're willing to walk away, you're willing to prioritize yourself, put yourself first, and really know that by setting that boundary, you are going to attract and manifest more of what you want into your life, then that boundary is going to set the energetic standard of who you're available for. And I've seen this in my life when I've gotten very clear on the kind of man that I want to manifest into my life, who I want to be in romantic relationships with, then walking away from the guys that haven't met those standards and not just settling for the sake of settling and saying, oh, I can't have it all, or this is good as it'll get, or whatever it is. And I've truly stayed in this position of power inside of myself of like, I'm not available for anything less than this. With time and with consistency and with continuing to put myself out there, I've built those energetic standards of what I'm available for, and now I'm attracting and manifesting men into my life that truly meet the boxes, the standards that I have set for what I want in my life. And it's such a powerful shift to know that like that is what we can do when we set those standards for ourselves, when we set those boundaries with ourselves. And another example of this can be like in your finances. So many people, when they are going into a new job, are fearful of setting the standard of what they are available for in terms of their wage. And they'll undersell themselves because they feel as though if they set that boundary, then nobody's going to meet up to that mark. But the reality is like, if you set that standard of what you are available for, what you are not willing to take less than, then that is the energy that you are going to vibrate from. And even if the one opportunity that you're walking into says no to you because of that rate, then it allows you to set that standard so that the universe can start to see where that energetic standard has been set and help open doorways to more opportunities and more potential for you to be met with the right opportunity that is going to meet up to that energetic standard that you've set for yourself in terms of income. And an example of this is like, I was actually talking to one of my good friends over the weekend, and she was talking about how when she first started doing brand partnerships, she had set this energetic standard that was so much lower than what she was worth. And she did that because she was new into the industry. She hadn't built up her confidence in it yet. And as she started to do the inner work and really dive into what her energetic standard was, then this allowed her to up her energetic standard, up her boundary, and put herself in the position where she isn't willing to take less than that. And it's opened the doorway to manifesting so many more new opportunities where she's getting paid what she has set the standard for and what she's worth. And like I said, this is the reality of what happens when we start to set these boundaries with ourselves. But until you set those boundaries, we're kind of just saying to the universe, like, throw at me whatever you got. And like, that's not a fun vibe to sit in. That's when it feels like life is punching you in the face. That's when it feels like you can be the victim to your reality. But the reality is that like, we are dictating what we attract and manifest into our lives at all times. And boundaries, like we've been talking about this entire episode, are a huge standard of that and how you actually can control what kind of opportunities you are going to attract and manifest into your life. And the way that I want you to visualize this is how I always see it when I am setting boundaries for myself and seeing what I'm going through, is like, when you have no boundaries, you have a house and all of the doors are open and all of the wind and whatnot outside picks up and shit just flies into the house. There's no dictating what's coming in and out of the house. And when you have boundaries, you're able to open and close those doors when you want to. And when that wind is kicking up and shit is flying, you close that shit down so that none of the nasty shit gets inside of the house. And you're really setting that standard of like, nope, this cannot come in. And the more that you do that, and the more that you are consistent with setting these boundaries with yourself and with other people, then that is going to allow you to show the universe what you are available for. And a lot of the times, at least in my experience, and at least with the women that I've worked with, when it comes to setting boundaries in your life, it's like the universe is going to send you lessons to see if you actually have set those boundaries. So you can say to yourself, I'm setting the boundary to do X, Y, and Z. I'm setting the boundary. Let's go back to the relationship example of like, I'm setting the boundary that I am not willing to settle for somebody who doesn't check my boxes. And then if you do not actually maintain that and uphold that boundary with yourself, then the universe is going to say, okay, she's not actually in that energy of the boundary that she set. So I'm just going to continue to send more people who do not check the boxes. And in our society, we kind of fall into these lame-ass limiting beliefs of just like, oh, there's no good men out there, or why can I never find the person, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, because you are not setting those boundaries. You are not being specific enough with what it is that you want, and you are not upholding that boundary with yourself. And when you do, the universe may throw you a few more people that do not check the boxes, but ultimately, by continuing to stay in that position of power, by holding that boundary with yourself, then the universe is going to understand what energy you are vibrating in and what you can attract back into your life because of the law of attraction. And just like I said, I mean, I've seen this work fucking miracles in my life so many times since setting boundaries and learning all about boundaries and why I didn't have boundaries in the first place, and really doing the inner work to heal that inside of myself so that now I can say that I'm a boundary queen. And because of that, it really has affected and helped me get to a place where I have so much more control over my energy and the things that I'm attracting and manifesting into my life. And when it comes to boundaries with other people, a lot of the times we don't know what our boundaries with other people are until they cross them. And if you do know what your boundaries are with other people, then it's time for you to communicate them. And when I say communicate them, I mean communicate them in a way of actually telling this person that it is a boundary for you. Because if you are not telling somebody that it is a boundary for you, then they're not gonna know. And then when you don't tell them and you're still pissed off about it, that is going to create the resentment that I was talking about at the beginning of the episode and really put you in a more challenging position than you need to be. And this is actually another conversation that I was having with a client the other week, is that she was super frustrated with her sister, but she had never communicated her boundaries to her sister. And her sister was putting herself first and doing all of these different things, and it was really triggering my client. And when we talked about it and when she realized that she had never communicated these with her sister, she realized it's because in her household, any sort of confrontation or communication around anything always meant something negative, and it always meant a fight. It always meant like somebody's feelings were going to get hurt. So because she didn't want to hurt her sister's feelings, she just didn't communicate what her boundaries were with her sister. And after recognizing that communication doesn't have to mean somebody's feelings are getting hurt, and that it doesn't have to mean getting in a fight or any sort of feelings being in a position that they don't want them to be, then it's allowed her to step into a position that she can more clearly communicate her boundaries to the people in her life. And so, like I was saying, for you listening, is like, if you recognize that you have boundaries that you haven't shared with other people, then looking into the reason why you haven't done that. And knowing that communication doesn't have to mean that there is something bad or wrong or something to fight about or feel negative about or any of the things. It can truly just be this conversation of like, hey, when you do X, Y, and Z, I feel this way. And I don't want to feel that way. I want to feel happy. I want to feel connected. I want to feel whatever you want to feel. So I'm setting the boundary with you that X, Y, and Z so that I can feel this way. And with doing that, it's like, it's not pointing the finger and being like, you did this, you fucking suck, I hate you, blah, blah, blah. It's pointing the finger at you and saying, hey, I feel this way. I'm making this about myself. And when you can communicate that it's an actual boundary for you, majority of people want to respect your boundaries. They want to help support you. And if they do not, then that's a completely other conversation of what to do with people who don't respect you. But majority of people that you have in your life want to respect your boundaries. They just don't know it's a boundary with you. And another example of this is at the very beginning of the pandemic, I moved back in with my parents for 5 weeks before getting a place in Denver. And when I first got there, I had just started my business. I needed time and space to be alone and be by myself because I hadn't lived with them since I was 18 years old. And moving back in for the first few days was so upsetting and so challenging because I wasn't communicating with them that I needed that space. And as soon as I did, I sat both my parents down and I said, hey, I feel like I have not been a good version of myself over the past few days. I feel really stressed out. I feel like my space is being invaded. And I know that you guys love me and aren't trying to do that. So what I am wanting to share with you guys is that I need to set some boundaries. And I need space in this kind of way. I need this. And I'm wondering if you can support me in respecting those boundaries, because that will allow me to feel like the best version of myself. And both of them looked at me and was like, yeah, duh, of course, we want to respect your boundaries and help you feel like the best version of yourself. And then I presented them with the opportunity to set boundaries with me as well, because it's like, it's a two-way street. If you are setting a boundary with somebody and they're choosing to respect it, then you can also present that to them and be like, are there any boundaries that you want to set so that I can make sure that I'm helping you be the best version of yourself as well? It doesn't have to be this weird, awkward thing of like, oh my God, I'm setting boundaries with you and them feeling like you're a bitch or you thinking that you're a bitch for doing it or whatever. It's like, it is one of the most supportive and healthy things that you could do for the relationships in your life, whether that be on a personal level, a professional level, or any other level in your life. Setting boundaries is not a bitchy thing to do. It is not a harsh thing to do. It is something that is incredibly supportive, not only to you, but to the people in your life. So on a individual level, like we were talking about at the beginning of the episode, of setting these boundaries with yourself and then setting boundaries with other people, this is absolutely going to change your vibration and your set point of attraction, because you're setting those energetic standards of what you're available for and protecting your energy. And by doing that, that is going to help you magnetize more of your manifestations and more clearly what you want into your life without having to feel like you're completely emptying yourself every single day, and really allowing yourself to continue to fill yourself up and have your energy in a place that feels really supportive to you. So that is what I got for you inside of this episode. I hope that all of that made sense. And if you loved this episode, I would love if you would leave me a review for the podcast. If you've listened to the podcast or if this is your first episode, whatever way, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. That is how I will help spread the word of this word that I'm spreading around intentional manifestation and how to better your life by choosing to put yourself in this position of doing the inner work and healing and raising your set point of attraction so that you can manifest the life of your dreams. And if you do that, thank you so much. I freaking love you and I appreciate it. And with all of that being said, I will let you go and I will chat with you on the next episode. Oh my gosh, thank you for listening to today's episode. I'm so grateful to have these no bullshit talks with you. If you enjoyed today's episode or the podcast as a whole, please spread the love by leaving me a review on iTunes or sharing the podcast with others. This is how I will be able to spread more of these good vibes and be able to make more of an impact on the lives of others. And if you're not already part of all of the goodness and communities that I have to offer, check out the show notes. I have links to the different ways that I can support you on your manifestation journey and help you live a life full of more money, fulfillment, and freedom. But that is all for now. So big love and hugs, and I will chat with you soon, babe.